Hey, what's up you guys, it's Connor, and it has been a while. I have not actually filmed a booktube video in about 2 months. I think the last time I filmed a video was like November 18th, I think was my last booktube video that I filmed. So a lot has happened since then. I took a little bit of a break because things started getting crazy. I had law school finals, but I figured what better video to get back into booktubing and everything like that than with an enormous book haul. These are all the books that I received from friends and family for Christmas, and then I also got books for my birthday, and then a couple of other things have just come from publishers and stuff like that. So strap in, this is gonna be a long video. There's also no order to this at all. It's just all over my floor, and I'm just gonna be picking them up and showing them. The first one I got is Curse Words Volume 2 by Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. I got this from Tony's sister, so thank you, Angela. If you guys don't know, this one follows this wizard who is sent to Earth to destroy it, but then instead decides that he likes Earth and wants to stay here, so he doesn't destroy it and makes the guy who sent him angry, and then now the guy's trying to kill him and destroy the Earth, and he's trying to protect the Earth. The problem is that he's a villain and he's really bad at being a good guy. So it's just really funny. I really enjoy the artwork as well. So it's just a really fun time, and I've actually already read this one. This one will be in my final wrap up for 2018, which I still have not filmed yet, but I will be filming this weekend. Look out for more thoughts on this one. She also ended up getting me The Monarch of the Glen by Neil Gaiman. This is a novella that goes along with the American Gods story. So American Gods, Anansi Boys, and then earlier this year I read Black Dog, this one, and so now I wanted to continue on and read the other short story that is in this same edition. I have no idea what it's going to be about, but it follows the same main character, Shadow, from the American Gods series. Next up, Tony got me Ancient Greek Philosophers in this leatherbound or faux leatherbound edition. It has the gold gilded edges, and so I can just dip in and out of this and read from different Greek philosophers. I was an ancient history major, a classical studies major in undergrad, so I love anything ancient Greek, ancient Rome, all of that stuff. I love all of it. I was also given Descender Volume 3 by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. This one follows this little boy robot, Tim22, and he's just trying to survive in a world that hates robots because they tried to take over the world. The artwork is very watercolor-like, and so it's a little bit less clear, a little bit less defined than other comic books, but I have been really enjoying the story. This one has, actually, I already read this one. This one has a lot of backstory for the characters, which I always really enjoy, so I'm still really loving Descender. Definitely recommend this if you like science fiction and comic books. I also received and already read The Wicked and the Divine, Volume 5. This is Imperial Phase Part 1. This is actually very thick for a comic book. The Wicked and the Divine series usually has some pretty thick bind-ups. This one just continues the story. I have already read this one, so I'll talk about it in my first wrap-up of 2019, which I also have not filmed yet. In this comic book series, every 90 years, 12 gods are brought back to life and are reincarnated into the bodies of young adults and teenagers, and they live it up for 2 years, and then within those 2 years, they all end up dying. They're supposed to save the world, but things get complicated, obviously, as they tend to do. I really like the coloring in this one as well, and I like the artwork. That's why I didn't really love the third volume very much, because they had guest artists come in and it just wasn't the same. This one also has some guest writers that write articles about the gods, which I thought was really interesting. So Mary H.K. Choi is one of the guest journalists that write an article in here. She's the one that wrote Emergency Contact, which people were reading last year. She's also great. I saw her at YALLFest and she is super funny. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. This is not a wrap up. Let's move on. I can't remember if I've hauled Wrath of the Dragon King, which is the second book in the Dragon Watch series by Brandon Mull. I actually ended up failing at a buddy read with Shay from Shay Geeks Out. If you guys don't know, this is a continuation of the Fablehaven series, which I have really enjoyed. I did a review of the first book when that one came out, but I will also be talking about this book in my wrap-up for the rest of the books that I read in 2018 when I actually do that. Yeah, if you guys don't know, this one follows two children who find out that their grandparents are the caretakers of a magical menagerie, and then they get into all sorts of trouble, and this is just continuing their story. I don't even know how many years the series has been coming out, but I'm still really enjoying them. Again, I will be talking about this in my wrap-up. I randomly ended up at Barnes & Noble, as readers tend to do, and I picked up Dry by Neal Shusterman and Jared Shusterman. I haven't seen too many people read this and review it yet. I also have been a little bit absent from BookTube, so coming back. Gonna start watching videos again. I saw it was a signed copy, so I figured I'd pick it up. I have been wanting to read it because Neal Shusterman is one of my favorite young adult authors. This one follows teens in a world where there is very little water, so they have to fight to survive and everything like that. I don't know much about it other than that, but I'll read it and review it for you guys at some point. I, along with some BookTube friends of mine, did a bit of a gift exchange Secret Santa thing this year. So Kayla from Book of Doodles ended up getting me, and she sent me Avatar: The Last Airbender: The Rift, which is the third set of 3 comics that follow Aang and the team after the cartoon ended. I've been really enjoying them. I just finished The Search not too long ago and absolutely loved it. I ended up giving that one 5 stars. I don't know if I did an individual review for that. I might have, so I'll leave that up in the card symbol if I did. But I'm excited to continue on, and it looks like this one has Toph in it, who is my favorite character. So I'm pumped to read this one. It's still in the wrap, but I will be reading it soon. Thank you very much, Kayla. Next, I got a couple volumes of manga. I got volume 6 and volume 7 of One Punch Man. If you guys don't know, One Punch Man is a manga that follows this guy who wants to be the best superhero. He wants to be a superhero for fun. He ends up being very overpowered, and he's able to defeat all of his opponents in one punch. There are other things that keep him grounded, so he's not just great at everything all the time. And it also makes fun of other mangas and shonen mangas and stuff like that, which I think is really fun. So I've been really enjoying this one, and I wanted to continue on, so thank you, family, for getting me these. I was given Monstrous Volume 3, which I have not read yet. I am really pumped too. I really love Monstrous. If you guys don't know, this one follows this girl named Micah Halfwolf, and she is, I can't remember the words. It's been a while since I read the second volume, but she's a hybrid between an ancient and like a regular human. Basically, she has this like monster inside of her that comes out and kills people, and she's trying to contain that as well as, you know, get whatever she wants to get done. There's talking cats that have multiple tails in here, which is really fun, and the artwork is a little darker, a little bit more grim, but that matches the story pretty well. And man, I just really love this one, so I will let you guys know what I think of this volume when I do get to it. I'll be surprised if this doesn't get nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards. And my battery's dying, so I need to switch that out. Next, I got My Brother's Husband by, I don't know how to say his name, I apologize. This is volume 1. I think this is a 2-volume series. It follows this character, and I think that his partner dies, and then he goes to see his partner's family, his husband's family. I don't know much about it, but I know that people have really been enjoying this one a lot, so I wanted to give it a go, and I love manga that's hardcover, so yes, I will be reading this one soon, hopefully, and I'll let you guys know what I think when I get to it. I got another copy of Britt Marie Was Here by Fredrik Backman. This is the UK hardcover edition. I have the American hardcover editions, but my dad started getting me the UK ones as well because they were signed. I don't think this one is signed, but I just wanted to have matching editions because I'm weird like that. So now I have A Man Called Uva, My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologies, and Britt Marie Was Here, all in the same matching editions, which I love. I think there's another Fredrik Backman book in this same style, same edition, but I'm not sure where it is. It's somewhere in this pile. I'll get to it eventually. I also got Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow. This is the first book in a series by Jessica Townsend. This one follows a girl named Morgan Crow who's a cursed child. She's blamed for all the bad things that happen in her town to anyone, no matter what. So if she is even in your vicinity and something bad happens to you, you blame her. That kind of thing. She's also supposed to die on her 12th or 13th birthday, can't remember which one, but she gets saved by this guy named Jupiter North, and he takes her to compete in this competition to prove herself worthy of joining the Wondrous Society, which will allow her to continue to live. I absolutely loved this book when I read it earlier this year. It was my favorite middle grade novel nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards. It is described as having similar vibes to Harry Potter, which I actually do agree with, and I think that that's warranted, but it is its own story. It has some Harry Potter vibes at the very beginning, but then very quickly veers off into its own thing. And yeah, I love Morgan, and I love her story. So I definitely recommend this one for middle grade readers. Now I have a copy of my own. Next, I got Revenant Gun by Yoon-Ha Lee. This is the third and final book in the Machineries of Empire trilogy, which I have been really enjoying. I really enjoyed the second book. The first one was a little hard to get into because it just drops you in the middle of everything. You have to figure it out. But the second one kind of leads you into the story a little bit better and a little bit easier, so you don't have to work so hard. I am pumped to see what's going to happen in this final volume, and I've heard good things. Hopefully we'll be reading this one soon. I also got Amulet Book 8, which is the 8th book, obviously, in a graphic novel series, a children's graphic novel series. It follows this girl named Emily and her brother Naven, and they end up going to a different world and having to explore it and survive and save it and all those cool fun things. I've been really enjoying this one, obviously, because I'm on book 8 at this point. I really enjoy the artwork, which is amazing. I've really been enjoying the story as well. It's just one of my favorite graphic novel series, so I wanted to continue along with it. I'm not sure. I think this might be the last book, if I'm not mistaken, so I'm excited to see how this one's gonna wrap up. Next, I got Barakamon Volume 2. This is the second volume, obviously, in a manga series. It's a slice of life manga. It's about this calligrapher who kind of goes crazy at the beginning of the first volume and decides to take a break to kind of remove himself and relax a little. He's living in this small island village and the villagers won't leave him alone, and he's just trying to live his life kind of thing. I really enjoyed the first volume, so I wanted to continue along. Obviously, it's manga, so it's black and white, and I don't know, I just really enjoy this story, so I'm gonna read this one this year at some point. I also got Hunter x Hunter Volume 5. This series goes on hiatus a lot, so I'm not super on top of keeping up with it, obviously, because I think there's like 30-something volumes out at this point, but the author gets sick, so I'm just slowly gonna collect these and make my way through them. I enjoyed the first 4 volumes, so I wanted to continue along. It follows this boy named Gon who decides that he wants to track down his dad, who is a hunter, so he has to get his hunting license to track his dad down, and it just follows his adventures and his friends' adventures, and I just love Gon, so gonna read this as well. I also got an Everyman's Library edition by Aeschylus. They're a couple of plays and I wanted to read them. As I said earlier, I was a classical studies major, so I had to read a lot of Greek plays for that, but some of these I did not read. I don't know if I read Eumenides, so that's one that I do want to check out as well, and I'm collecting the Everyman's Library editions. My parents got me a couple of guidebooks for the law school classes that I'm taking this current semester. I am taking administrative law. I'm going to be learning about that, and then I also got Evidence, which I'm also in. I'm not keen on being a litigator, like it's not something that I ever want to be, but Evidence is on the bar exam, so I have to learn about it so that I can pass the bar. Taking these 2 classes this semester. I'm also taking a bunch of other ones, but they didn't have guides for those. Here's the first example of me not organizing. I also got The Calling of Morgan Crow, Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow, which is the second book in that series. I already raved about Morgan Crow before, so I'm excited to continue and see where she's headed next. This one is a little bit thicker as well. The more the merrier. I don't exactly remember which family members gave me which books, but I definitely know that my brother-in-law picked out The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown for me. He is a big fan of Brené Brown, as am I. I'm actually currently reading Dare to Lead by her, or I'm listening to it on audiobook. I love Brené Brown. I actually do recommend reading her books in publishing order because she references her books in her other books. So I didn't do it correctly. I would have gone back to the first book that she published and then read through them because it makes more sense that way, but I have been jumping around. So I wanted to check this one out as well because I just really love Brené Brown. I really like how she delivers her messages, so I'm going to be reading this one as well. And I also know that my brother-in-law and my sister gave me The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. This is a collection of short stories, I believe, and I guess they just talk about different historical time periods and stuff like that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that this is one of people's favorite collections of short stories. I wanted to check it out and see for myself. I also read his translation of The Three-Body Problem a couple of years ago now and wanted to continue along with something of his. We'll see. Next up is The Griffin's Feather, which is the second book in the Dragon Riders duology by Cornelia Funke. I read Dragon Riders earlier this year, I believe. I think I buddy read it with Murphy, so I wanted to see what was going to be in the sequel because the time between the first book being published and this one was like a decade or something like that. So I'm curious how her writing style has changed and also where the characters are going to go from where the first book left off. Yeah, I ended up enjoying Dragon Rider for what it was. I think that it's definitely a book for kids, and adults going to read it for the first time are not going to enjoy it as much as someone who maybe read it as a child and is revisiting it, or someone that is a child and reading it for the first time. It was very formulaic, so I'm hoping that this one maybe breaks that formulaic structure a little bit, but we'll see. I don't talk about it very much on my channel, but I actually do really love the channel Ask Mortician. I watch her videos and she is so funny, and I just think that it's really good to be death positive and to have those discussions early so that you know what you're doing when the time comes. So I got Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory. I actually have her other book as well, but I haven't read it yet. I wanted to read this one first and then jump into that one. I know that they're very, very different. Like this one I think is just her personal stories and stuff like that from her crematory business and her funeral business. And then the other one is different cultures and their death traditions. I don't know. I just wanted to read them in order. I'll let you guys know about this one soon. Next, I picked up Beneath the Sugar Sky by Seanan McGuire. This is the third book in the Wayward Children series of novellas that she's been doing. I actually have already read this one. I listened to it on audiobook and I really, really enjoyed this one. If you guys don't know, in the Wayward Children series, it follows these children that went off to these different worlds and then were kicked out and have to come back to our world and deal with having to leave their fantastical worlds and live an ordinary life. And a lot of them do not cope with that very well. They want to go back. The first one follows an asexual main character that's just trying to get back to her world. The second one follows two of the characters that are side characters in that first one before the series starts. And then this one is a sequel to the first one. So I definitely recommend reading at least the first one before reading this one. In this one, we travel to a nonsense world, which is like a more nonsensical place. It doesn't have the same style of rules that our world has. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one when I read it, so I wanted to add a copy to my personal library. And I think that the fourth one is either coming out very soon or is already out, so I'll have to check out that one and see how that one is as well. Next up, I got With Blood Upon the Sand, which is book 2 in the Song of the Shattered Sand series by Bradley P. Bolio. I actually have an arc of this book. I actually have 2 arcs of this book because they sent me 2. But I wanted a hardcover finished edition because I'm really enjoying this series a lot. I actually do need to read the third book soon because I do love this series. I think I gave the first one 4.5 stars. I gave this one 5 stars. And I think I gave the prequel novellas, there's like 3 short stories in that, 4 stars. It's super good. It's about this girl named Cheda who blames the 12 immortal kings for her mother's death, and she vows to take revenge on the kings and try to kill them. And throughout the series, she's trying to take down these kings, as well as discover all of these mysteries about herself and the people around her and this world, because there are some magical things happening in the background. In the second book, they really start to come out, so I'm assuming that in the third book it just gets crazy. But I wanted to finish copy so that I could go back and reread this series whenever I wanted to. Then I got Vinland Saga Volume 2. This one follows a boy who is trying to get revenge for his father's death. That's funny, because Cheda's trying to get revenge for her mother's death. Anyway, he's actually traveling with the people that he blames for the murder of his father. It's just inspired by Vikings, and some of the things are historically accurate, which is pretty cool. I really enjoyed the first volume when I read it, so I wanted to continue and see what happens next. This one is by Makoto Yukimura. I also got The Titan's Curse by Rick Riordan. This is the graphic novel version of the third book of the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, which is the first series chronologically of the Greek/Roman gods. They only made the first 3 in graphic novels. I'm not sure why they didn't just continue on and do the last 2. I have the first 2 and I wanted to complete my collection and get the third one as well. These are actually a pretty easy way to get the story. Call from Shithead. My dad's calling. Can you hear it? That's a joke. My mom doesn't actually think my dad's a shithead. Well, maybe sometimes she does, but not generally. But yes, so I wanted to continue along and finish it, and I was saying that I think that these are a good way to get the story, especially for kids that don't love reading novels and like maybe comic books or whatever. They can kind of get introduced into the world with maybe the graphic novel form and then move into the novels. I don't know, but I have been enjoying them. Next, I got The Magicians by Lev Grossman. This is one of those series that I've been meaning to check out for so long. I know that Sam from Thoughts on Tomes really enjoys this series, and it's one of those series also that you need to know going in that you're not gonna like the characters, and it's, I think, one where you don't like the first book or something like that, and once you read all three, you end up appreciating the whole thing a lot more. So we'll see. I only have the first one, so I'm gonna read it, see how it goes. If I have strong feelings about it, like if I end up hating it or hating the characters in it, I'll continue on. But if I'm just kind of like neutral or lukewarm about it, I probably won't. But we'll see. I wanted to give it a go. Then I got The Royal Ranger by John Flanagan. This is the 12th book in the Ranger's Apprentice series, which I am very close to finishing. I've been reading the series for way too long. I just need to get myself together and just finish it. I still have the Lost Stories to read, and then this is the last book in the original series, and then I'll be done with it. I probably will be continuing on to the spin-off series, but I want to get this one done just so I can mark it off as completed. So I've read 10 books in this series and I'm still enjoying it. It follows this character named Will. At the beginning of the first book, he is a ward of, not the state. Is it called that when it's a kingdom? Anyway, he's a ward. He's trying to figure out where he's going to end up in life. He needs to find a profession, and he originally wants one thing, but he doesn't get whatever he originally wants. He ends up becoming a ranger, and he is underneath this guy named Halt, I think is his name. Anyway, they have tons and tons of adventures. There's a lot of side characters that you really come to love, and I just want to finish it. Here's the other Fredrik Backman book. I didn't actually end up unwrapping it the whole way. So I got this copy of The Scandal by Fredrik Backman, which is the UK name for Beartown. Beartown is my favorite book by him. I love that book. I have now 5 copies of this book because I love it that much. I've actually read 3 of the copies, so it's not like I don't read them. Yeah, I wanted to get this one. It matches my other UK editions of his other books, sort of. This one has a dust jacket, which is interesting, but it's that same kind of font and style that the other ones have. So I'll be putting this one with the UK editions and kind of make a American collection of Fredrik Backman books and UK collection of Fredrik Backman books. I should get the originals. That might be something that I look out for in the future. Next is An Echo of Things to Come by James Islington. This is the second book in the Lycanis trilogy. I just recently finished the first book, which is The Shadow of What Was Lost. You can see it right there. It's that orange. So the spines are all very colorful. This one follows, I forgot his name already. Oh my gosh. This one follows a guy named Davian. In this world, the augurs, which are people that were able to see the future as well as have other magical abilities, kind of ruled the world with a heavy hand. They were practically tyrants, and then the gifted helped them keep control. At some point, the people rose up, killed all the augurs, and the gifted were enslaved. So now it's regular humans that are in charge, the gifted are enslaved, and the augurs are no more. At the beginning of the first book, the main character Davian starts to realize that his powers are more similar to augur's powers than they are to the gifted powers, and then it goes crazy from there. I actually just recently talked about this book, so I'll leave that linked in the card symbol as well as down below if you want to check it out. I'm pumped to continue on. It's a big chunky book. I originally read the first one as a buddy reading group that Elle was putting on, but I didn't continue with it. I dropped off because I had schoolwork and it was just too much. It's a big book and I couldn't read this as well as all my law school reading. Now I have the time-ish to continue, and I'll get to see what they're up to next. Next, my brother-in-law and my sister, who gave me An Echo of Things to Come, accidentally ordered 2 of the same books. So they ordered The Last Continent, which is book 11 in the Wings of Fire series by Tui T. Sutherland. The Wings of Fire series is one of my all-time favorite middle grade series. It is so fun. Both boys and girls will really, really enjoy it. It's got a lot of different characters. You're definitely gonna root for some. You're gonna kind of be annoyed at others. There's just so many different personalities and cultures and everything like that included. It is so good. And this one is obviously set on a different continent, and I just really liked learning about all these different types of dragons. This series is set up in a way where you can continue for each set of 5 books. So the first set of 5 books is one problem, and then starting at the 6th book through the 10th book is a different problem, and then this one is the start of a whole new problem. So you can stop after every 10 if you don't want to continue, or you know, you can stop whenever you want. But if you want to finish the storyline, it stops every 5. I do recommend also reading the prequel before you jump into this one, because there's a character that's in the prequel that's in this one. I guess she influences this book even though she's not alive anymore. Yeah, so I have 2 copies of this. I will probably return one, get the money, and then buy the next book, which I think is coming out or is already out. So they'll have bought me both books, but I'm gonna return this one so that I can get the next one. You know what I mean? Yeah, gonna do that. The next one, I thought that I ordered this book so long ago and it never showed up, and I was like, what is happening? Why didn't I get this book? Then I realized that they canceled my order, so I reordered it and then they canceled my order again. I don't know why. So I never got it, but someone finally got it for me for Christmas, and that is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. This is the second book in the Strange the Dreamer duology. I really enjoyed the first book. I think I gave the first one 5 stars. This one, I didn't love it as much because the loveness that was happening was annoying, but I do have my notes to do a review for this book. I was waiting for the book to come in so that I could do the review. Hopefully I remember enough to do it properly. So if I do remember enough when I'm looking at my notes to do one, that should be coming out here soon. I'll probably film that this weekend as well. I'm definitely looking forward to reading more from Laini Taylor in the future. I might go back and read her Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, but I want the cool covers, the ones that are not readily available anymore. They have like the feathers on the front and it's not the masks. I don't want the masks, I want the feathers. Gonna try to find that edition if I can and read that trilogy and then read whatever she comes out with next, because they're interlocked. This one has a lot of overlap with that trilogy, so I want to see the whole picture, I guess is what I'm saying. My aunt every year always gives me so many books. She is so amazing. Thank you, Cheetah. The first one she got me is The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm by Christopher Paolini. This is also co-authored by his sister, Angela. These are 3 stories that take place in Alagasia, which is where Eragon takes place. I read Eragon when I was a youngin', right when it was coming out. I loved Eragon and Eldest, and then I kind of dropped off and did never finish Brisingr, and I finally went back and finished the series a few years ago, but I wanted to go back to this world and see what's going on with it. I'll let you guys know what I think when I read it. My brother was eyeing this one because he really loves the Eragon series, so I'm sure I'll let him borrow this to read now if he wants to, and then I can always read it whenever I want to now that I own it. But yeah, there's a little colored map and everything. I'm pumped. I recognize that there are problems with Eragon. Eragon is not like an amazing book by any means, and even though Eragon is probably the creepiest guy, I still really enjoyed those books. So I'm gonna read this one. The Fell Sword by Miles Cameron. I buddy read, what is it called? The Red Knight with a bunch of people a long time ago, and then I never continued with the series. This is the second book. The Red Knight is this guy who leads a band of mercenaries, and they're hired by an abbess to protect her convent. There are tons of magical creatures and everything that are attacking them. It's basically like the wild versus humans. It also has a lot of Arthurian elements interwoven in, and I did really enjoy this when I read it. I hope I remember enough that I could just jump into this one. I don't know if I do. I'll probably have to reread it. And the writing is tiny. See, it is so small, but I do really want to read this one as well. But yeah, that's a lot of reading. She also got me a finished copy of A Veil of Spears by Bradley P. Bolio. This is the 3rd book in the Song of the Shattered Sand series. I already explained what the series is about. I had an arc for this book, but I wanted a finished copy because I don't know. I like reading out of finished copies better than arcs. So if I have the ability to get my hands on a finished copy, I might as well. I'm gonna read it this year. I'm gonna do it. One of my books that I'm prioritizing, so I'll be talking about this one at some point this year. They gave me Age of War by Michael J. Sullivan. This is the 3rd book in the Legends of the First Empire series. I did a review of the first book when it first came out, but then I never read Age of Swords? Swords. But I do want to focus this year on authors that I really love. Instead of reading all of these like popular books that people are talking about, I really just want to go and read the books that I want to read, kind of thing. So Michael J. Sullivan is one of those authors that I absolutely love his books, and I really love this series specifically. I really liked the first book and I just never continued. So I'm planning to read the 2nd book this semester, and then I'll have the 3rd book to jump into. His books tend to get sold out. Like Age of Swords like went out of print, and now the book is really expensive in hardcover, so I wanted to go ahead and grab this while I could so that I don't run into that problem later on if this one also goes out of print. This one is set thousands of years before his other books, so you can jump into Age of Myth, which is the name of the first one, whenever you want. I'll leave that link up in the card symbol if you're at all interested in hearing more about it. They got me The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the 2nd book in the Raven Boys Quartet series. I read the first book a year ago, 2 years ago, I'm not sure. The ending was super confusing, but I did enjoy the story enough to continue on, mainly because people love this series so much that I want to know why they love it so much. So I know I'm contradicting what I just said, how I want to focus on books that I want to read, books that I know I'm gonna love, but I also want to read some books that I know other people love. So I'm gonna try to read this one. Let me know if you guys have read this series, if you loved it, if you think that I will continue to love it. I don't know. I think I gave the first one like 3.5 stars because it had a super slow start and the ending didn't make any sense in my brain. I'll let you guys know, or you guys can let me know if I should even read this series or not. I also got a copy of Sight Witch by Susan Dennard. I loved this novella that is a part of the Witchland series. I actually originally listened to this book as an audiobook, which I highly recommend. I think that the audiobook narrators are fantastic. Each main character has a different narrator, but I did hear that there are illustrations in here that I was missing. Oh yeah, see, there they are. So I might reread this before I read the third book. So I decided to pick it up and we'll be adding it to my collection. I was actually talking to Kayla from Book of Doodles a little while ago and she was like, oh my gosh, have you heard that they made the first book of the Wings of Fire series into a graphic novel? And I was like, oh yeah, I did hear about that, but I haven't really seen anyone talk about it or see it pop up. So I went ahead and put it on my Christmas/birthday wish list, and my aunt and my grandparents bought it for me, and it has all the dragons in there. I'm really excited to go back and read the first story set in this world because it's been so long since I started, and read about Clay again. Definitely love Wings of Fire, and I'll be putting this over by all of my Wings of Fire books, and I think I have her other series as well, but it's not nearly as good as Wings of Fire, so just stick with Wings of Fire. I also got the second part, Imperial Phase Part 2 of the Wicked and the Divine series. I actually have not read this one. Oh my gosh, I keep turning the title pages. So I'll be reading this one as well. I already talked about this earlier in this video, so I'm just gonna move on, but I got this one. It's a little bit damaged, which kind of sucks, but I don't mind. Next is The Shadow Club Rising by Neal Shusterman. This is the sequel to The Shadow Club, which I read earlier this year and love-hated. Like, I think that he did a really good job of making all the characters hateable, and I hated them. This is actually the sequel to his first book that he ever published, and as I was saying earlier, Neal Shusterman is one of my favorite authors, and I want to collect all of the books that he's published. So this was on that list, and I requested that I get it used because it is so expensive now. I don't know why. So I definitely want to continue on. The Shadow Club is about a group of children who are second best in things, and they always get bested by the first best kids. So they start playing pranks on the first best kids, because the first best kids are not innocent fully. They kind of rub it in everyone's faces that they are the best, and they're kind of mean, they're kind of bullies. So then these kids start to play pranks on them, and then it kind of escalates and escalates and escalates until you hate everyone in this book. I don't know if this follows directly that story, but I'm curious to find out, and I'll be reading this one soon for sure because I love Neal Shusterman and I want to do reviews for all of his books so that I have on my channel all of my individual reviews of all of his books. If you want to know more, I will leave the link to my original review of the first book down in the description because I think I've used up all my cards. We're nearing the end, guys. People that are still here, you guys are champs. Leave a comment down below saying that you love Nook if you're still here, just so I can see who's made it and who hasn't. Next up, I got Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is the second book in the Red Rising trilogy that has now been continued on with, but I actually have already read Golden Sun. I listened to the audiobook and I liked it, but it was a little hard to get into. I think that this one is going to pop up on my last wrap-up for last year. Yeah, I don't think that this one was as strong. I think that it suffers a little bit from... This is not a wrap-up. So, moving on. The oldest thing that was on my wish list, it's been on my wish list since I started BookTube. That is the Watchmen Deluxe Edition. Watchmen the Deluxe Edition by Alan Moore. This is one of those staple comic books that you just need to read if you really love comic books and you love superhero comics, which I do. I've been wanting this one for so long, but it's a little pricier than I want to spend on a comic book myself. Yeah, I'm really pumped to get into this one. I actually watched the movie that came out however many years ago that was, and that's kind of what prompted me into wanting to read this as well. I'm sure it's going to be much different, but I really am looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to reading this and kind of getting into some older comics that are big staples in changing the way that comics are today. And the last book that my aunt and my grandparents gave me, my aunt and uncle, I keep forgetting to say my uncle as well, but yes, my aunt and my uncle and my grandparents, was The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I love these editions. When I was in London a year and a half ago, a little over a year ago, I saw these editions in one of the shops and I was like, oh my god, those are gorgeous. I've never read anything from F. Scott Fitzgerald before, and I love these editions so much that I don't want to get them in the Everyman's Library editions. I wanted these specific ones because I love the design of these. I've never read the book. I never saw the movie. I haven't seen the old one, nor have I seen the most recent one. I heard the most recent movie wasn't as good and that I should just read this and then watch the older movie, so I think that's what I'm gonna do. These are gorgeous. I love this style. So the last 3 books that I got for my birthday, so this was birthday and Christmas all combined, and then there's a couple more books that I got post-birthday, like they didn't come in on time or publishers sent them. We'll get into those in a second, but these are the last ones I got on my actual birthday. I got Beren and Lúthien by J.R.R. Tolkien, which is the deluxe edition of this book. I actually have the deluxe edition of The Children of Húrin, I believe is what it's called. Or maybe it's not the deluxe edition, but it's one that has this kind of slipcase and this style of book design and everything like that. So I ended up also getting The Fall of Gondolin, which I think is one that most recently came out, and that's what prompted me wanting to get these and get into the deluxe editions of these books, because I want to read more from J.R.R. Tolkien and that world. Again, going back to reading books that I want to read, even if they aren't like the most popular books that people are reading on BookTube. And then I also got a copy of The Silmarillion in the deluxe edition, and these are so nice. I love these. They look amazing. I'm really pumped to dive in and read them. I probably won't actually read the Silmarillion one because that one ended up being quite pricey. Yeah, I'm really grateful to have these, and I'm pumped to get into them and maybe do some videos on them. I actually kind of want to reread The Lord of the Rings because my review that I did of The Lord of the Rings is quite old now, and I think that I could do a better job than what I did back then. So maybe I'll reread The Lord of the Rings this year and then jump into these. I'm still doing my project of Truman Capote books. I just have not started the next one, but I am still planning to do those videos. The first one was In Cold Blood, and I'm planning on reading Other Voices, Other Rooms next. That's still the plan. Don't worry about that. If you were even worried, I don't think most people are even care about that series all that much, but I do still plan on doing that. So these are the last grouping of books. These are the books that I just came home after my first 2 weeks of the semester of law school, and they're waiting for me, so I'm gonna open them. Some of them have been opened already because my mom looked at them. This one has obviously already been opened, and I can see what it is. I'm really pumped. I got this edition of Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I don't like the American cover, like, at all. I don't even want to own it. I have all of the American hardcovers of all of his other books, but this one is so much better than the American one. So I asked for this one because I really want to read this one. He was talking about how he wanted to do a series that was kind of tropey, where it was like a boy finds his dragon, he becomes a dragon rider, blah blah blah. It's been done so many times before that he didn't want to do that specific thing. So he kind of put it on its head. He made the main character female. Spensa is her name, and she ends up, I think, becoming like a fighter pilot, potentially. I don't know too much about this, but I've heard people talk positively about this, so I'm pumped to jump in. I love this design. I actually still need to read the 3rd book in the Stephen Leeds series of novellas. That one's at school with me, and then I'll probably read this from Brandon Sanderson next. And by first, I mean like the next book from Brandon Sanderson is going to be that little novella to finish up that trilogy, do a review on it. Then I'll probably do this one. I still have my notes to do a review of Mistborn, but I never filmed it, so I'm gonna have to reread it again for like the 5th time, which is not a bad thing because I love Mistborn. Oh, this is not a book, but I did end up getting the next collection that I needed for the Blu-rays of Fairy Tail, and by needed, I mean wanted. I obviously don't need these, but you know what I mean. This is collection 7, and it contains episodes 143 through 164. I love Fairy Tail. It's one of my favorite animes and manga. I think I've read like the first 35 volumes of manga, and I love the anime as well. So, love Fairy Tail. And here is, oh, Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. I really loved All Systems Red last year. I did a review of All Systems Red, which is the first book in this series of novellas, which follows a character who refers to itself as Murderbot. Murderbot just wants to be left alone and to watch reality TV, but it gets kind of sucked into human conflict and everything like that. All Systems Red did so well that they released it in hardcover. It came out in paperback and then they released it in hardcover. So I definitely want to pick up the hardcover of it because Martha Wells is one of my favorite fantasy authors. This is obviously science fiction, but she wrote the Books of Rexura, which I really, really love. And I also recently read City of Bones by her as well and enjoyed that one. So I'm excited to see where Murderbot goes next. I hope this one gets nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards, because then I already own it, and also it deserves it. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't read this one, but All Systems Red was really good. So these next two were sent by publishers. This one is from Simon & Schuster. So they sent me another copy of Boys Keep Swinging by Jake Shears. If you don't know, Jake Shears is someone famous. He's the lead singer and a primary songwriter of the multi-platinum selling glam rock band Scissor Sisters. And this is his memoir. If you're interested, the paperback is now out. I was also sent this package from Disney Hyperion, I believe. While looking for the scissors, I found two more packages that I haven't shown you yet. Always cut away from your body. When you open it, there's a lot of confetti. And then on the top it says, "The Demon Realm Awaits." This is The Last Life of Prince Alistair, which is the second book after The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. They probably wanted me to post something on social media, but I don't do unboxings on Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, link down below. Oh wow! Oh wow! This is cool! So there's a little scan this thing. It says, "Scan this QR code for a special Instagram stories feature supporting the release of The Last Life of Prince Alistair." Don't know what that's about, but I'll find out a little later. There's a mirror that goes along with it. It's a magnet that says The Last Life of Prince Alistair up at the top, and then, you know, it's a mirror, and I'm gonna probably put it on my fridge at school. There are some stickers that go along with the box, so there is Alistair. Here's the book, The Last Life of Prince Alistair. This is a gorgeous cover, I think. I really like how the two go together really well, and they're gonna look great on the shelf. I read this one for the BookTube SFF Awards last year and did really enjoy it. I had a really good time while reading this. Morgan Grove just kind of edged it out of the arena for me, but I am pumped to continue along, and I said that in my review when I talked about this in one of my wrap-ups. I'll leave it down below if you want to check it out. But yeah, I will be reading this one at some point. That's kind of funny. I wonder if they actually looked up to see if I'd read the first one already. So as I said, there were two packages that I was sent. The first book that was in one of them was this one. It is A King in Cobwebs, which I think is the third book in the Tales of Duran series by David Keck. They sent me the second book as well, and by they I mean Tor. I don't know what the series is about. They sent me the second one. They never sent me the first one, so I don't know. I should just look it up and tell you what it's about, because now I have the paperbacks of the second and third one, so if I get my hands on the paperback of the first one, which is called In the Eye of Heaven, then maybe I'll give this series a shot. And this is just a trilogy, so this is the final book. I just don't know anything about it. Then the other book I was sent is from Atria Books, and that is Watching You by Lisa Jewell. This kind of makes me think of You by Caroline Kepnes. So I guess this is about this woman named Joey who is stalking her neighbor, Tom. Tom's son ends up putting the pieces together and realizes that Joey has some weird stalkerish things going on, and then I think it's just maybe like a psychological journey after that. But there's also a murder involved, so I don't really know. This one came out the day after Christmas, so yes, it is out. This is how long it's been since I filmed a video. And the last book in this haul is probably going to be the most exciting. I have not opened it yet, so I don't know 100% if this is what it is, but based off of who it was from, like who sent it, I believe it's going to be the most exciting. My parents ended up giving me this. I'm pretty sure this is a Brandon Sanderson book. It's sent by Dragonsteel, which is the name of Brandon Sanderson's publishing thing. Like when he publishes his own books in the like special editions. Oh my gosh, I need to cut it open. A box and a box and a box and a box. The little Doom Slug sticker. Wow. There it is in all its glory. The Hero of Ages leather-bound edition. So now I have all three in this edition. I love how shiny they are. Let me go get them. So now I have all 3 of the original Mistborn trilogy in these special leather-bound editions, and they are just gorgeous. I also have Elantris in this edition. Hero of Ages just came out in the leather-bound edition, and they always have amazing end pages and artwork. That's the cover of the American hardcover edition, and then they have some of the other edition covers in here, as well as some of just regular art. Like there's the UK paperback edition, and just, it's so good. And then, yeah, I'm so pumped. I love these editions. They're incredible. They have the gold gilded edges, I believe is what it's called. I think I said that once already in this video. I'm very excited to have all 3, and they look amazing. So those are all the books I believe that I've received and bought and just everything since my last book haul. If I've missed something, oh well. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below what I should be reading sooner rather than later. Have you guys read some of these books and you want me to pick them up ASAP? If you have anything else you want me to know, leave it down below and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.